Take your place in the Coaching Lounge. Be inspired by discussions with motivational guests, compelling speakers, key people of influence, and models of success. Learn unique processes, strategies, and tips that will transform your life. Tune into previous episodes on www.thecoachinglounge.co.uk. Like our page on Facebook via The Coaching Lounge. Follow us on Twitter @Satellite Coach. Thank you for joining your host, Rebecca Gordon, in The Coaching Lounge. Tune in, relax, engage, and transform your life now. Whether you wish it to or not, change happens. Sometimes we resist change because it presents a new experience that rests outside of our comfort zone. My guest today is a coaching professional who has long-standing experience of leading non-profit organisations since the early 2000s, in which he's created change in the community and inspired others to get involved in making that change. I first met Roger Dennison at the Coachpreneurs meetup in London, going back in July 2015. And Roger is a co-organizer of the Coachpreneurs meetup, and we'll talk about that in the interview. Roger's career history includes 21 years delivering timely and customer-focused results, and he's worked as a manager in 3 UK government departments, including employment, education and business. So, in today's edition of the Coaching Lounge, I will explore with Roger his views on the topics of business leadership, personal growth, equality, and diversity. And just to remind you that you're tuning into the Coaching Lounge podcasts, and I'm your host, Rebecca Gordon, in conversation with Roger Dennison. Roger, welcome to the Coaching Lounge.
Wow, I'm really pleased to be in the Coaching Lounge, and thank you very much for inviting me along to contribute to your very important work and your community as well.
Thank you, Roger. You're absolutely welcome. And I think it's important to touch on our first meeting, which was back in July. And can you if you can share with me just a bit more about the Coachpreneurs meetup and how you became involved in that and what exactly it is, please?
Yes, of course. The Coachpreneurs meetup group is a continuing professional development forum. It's been in existence since 2014, January, so it's coming up on, 3 years now. And I've been pleased to co-organise it along with Roman Ivanov and Clive Maxheath, both of whom are coaching professionals and really adept at that field of work. I've been, as it goes, a co-organiser for the past year, so it's been a wonderful opportunity to allow coaches at their various stages of growth, either new to the profession or well established and looking to expand their remit a little bit. It's been a wonderful opportunity to bring in people such as yourself into those conversations about how we can do what we do better, how we can serve our clients more fully, and develop those deeper connections with them that really transform their lives while they're tackling their important goals of career or personal growth.
Excellent. And I believe there was a meetup this week just gone, wasn't there, about leadership, was it? Leadership in management and coaching.
That's right. It was a strategic session which was around leadership, the difference between leadership and management, I should say, and how those thoughts can be brought into the coaching practice and offer that better level of service to the clients and indeed prospects, people who are nosing around the edge of coaching and wondering if it's really the right thing that they want to go through. Right. Because after all, change is a major issue, as you were saying at the top of the show, and not everybody's ready to go through that process.
That's right. So because I wasn't privy to that meetup, I couldn't make it actually on, I think it was Tuesday. Can you please share with me, this is a good time to ask you to share me one or two insights that you took away from that meetup this week?
I must admit, I wasn't at that session.
All right.
And I was actually at the Music of Black Origin Inspiring Leaders session in the British
Oh,
Library,
fantastic. Well,
which
tell me about that then, please.
yes, it was a really good session convened by Kanya King, who's brought that organization into being from scratch. And she was explaining her personal story there and how that shows up and makes it possible to draw people into the conversation and make incredible things happen just because you've got the energy and the passion to make them so. And also on the stage, there was Levi Roots, whose
Oh,
reggae
nice.
source you might be familiar with,
Yes.
and June Sarpong and other folks as well. So it's a really good evening of
Excellent.
energy and passion.
Right, okay. And good networking, I can imagine as well.
Exactly so. It was wonderful to be in a room full of people engaged in startups or trying to get things off the ground in the margins of their 9 to 5, and just trying to find out what makes teams work. What do you need to have in place before you get going? How perfect does your situation be in order to succeed? Those were the conversations that we were having in the room.
Excellent. Sounds really good. Now,
I feel so.
you've mentioned energy and passion. I think that's a really good place to start because those are
Yes.
two good key ingredients for success. So,
Mm,
leading on to talk about you now, can you tell me
yes.
what inspired you to take this journey and tell me a little bit about your experiences on, your journey of becoming a professional coach?
That's a really interesting question to get into, and I was thinking about it as part of the preparation for today, and the journey is really around the challenge of pursuing different goals at the same time, and needing to pay attention to the priorities, set some boundaries around what's possible, and care about the quality of the results that you're achieving. So my story, British Caribbean heritage, born over here, very much into a family of pursuing academic success, getting those academic goals, so very IQ led, and also balancing those out with the emotional qualities of life, knowing what's going on in your heart and in your gut as well as your head, and combining all of that to be successful. So, in that civil service corporate career that I was just, you kindly mentioned, very much playing to the intellect, but also involving heartfelt responses, making sure that the customers and colleagues are getting a good time, and also having an enjoyable and growing time myself. But what drew me into coaching was a negative experience, if that's the way to characterize it, which happened in the early 2000s when I was a bit of a square peg in a round hole, and very much aware of that internally, but just thought I can plow on through being intellectual. And inevitably, that stressed me out, left me very unhappy. And the way that I was getting into the coaching was I was coached by an internal colleague, somebody separate to my team, but who just reunited me almost with my key values, the core principles that I operate from. And I was able to get back to normal and actually exceed my usual
Right.
expectations in another job. So
Okay.
that was my introduction to coaching.
Right. So you had personal experience of the experience of coaching and
Absolutely,
yeah, realized the
it's
benefits. Yes.
transformative power.
Right. So you've had personal experience of coaching yourself.
Yes, indeed, and it's power to transform your situation if you're willing to engage with the process and really invest your time and your energy to make it happen.
Okay. So since becoming a coach, can you tell me more about the clients that you work with? What's your niche or your particular area of focus, Roger?
Yes, I would say it's around that transformational moment that people reach in their career or in their life. If they've been doing something for a length of time and they are a little bit overwhelmed by changes they face, perhaps their organization is changing or their job's about to disappear, or they reach that crossroads where they're thinking about, well, is this 9 to 5 enough? Is it fitting in with my values, the things I want to achieve as my goals? Or do I need to start developing that startup idea that I've had quietly burning away, flickering away at the back of my mind? Is this the time to really grasp that opportunity and pursue it? And those are the clients with whom I've worked, and I've particularly enjoyed that experience and given them the benefit of clarity, of the opportunity to reach a decision, and just feel better about what they're doing and where they're doing it.
Okay, so I'm interested to know then, what are some of the common, I mean, you've mentioned, shall I start my business or is this what I want to be doing in the 9 to 5? So what are some of the specific common themes regarding people in their working life who want to shift and do something different? Are they particularly related to those two things or other things?
Shift is a very good word to pick up on. I think now, given the current climate and the economy and technology and change, people have the opportunity to shift their lives in ways that they couldn't have done 15 or 10 years ago. So that the themes that I'm seeing quite a lot are people saying, well, I can now do this opportunity that I've had in mind because I can use social media to leverage my contacts and make people aware of what I'm doing and get them involved, etc. Equally, people who have been in a set organization for a length of time, which is suddenly contracted, and they have lost their secure seat, and it's time for them to make the decision about changing their career, doing something different, etc. So yes, that shift principle is very much one that keeps showing up across the people, the men and women with whom I'm involved in that coaching
Mm.
relationship.
Okay, and it's probably a good time to say that in the workplace, when change happens, employees are more often than not taken to the process of understanding change at work, change management principles, Kotter, etc. But very
Yes.
much for personal change within the individual's life, we're often left high and dry, and,
Mm.
and don't understand change, what to expect, how our emotions might be up and down, toing and froing. And I think probably that's where your expertise as a coach is very much helpful for an individual in the transformational situation, whether it be for work or for their personal life.
Oh, yes, I would go along with that quite quite strongly. In fact, that wherever you are is the place from which you start, because sometimes the flow of life, the way in which we proceed forward and just tick things off, we get caught up in the business of just being busy without actually stopping and paying attention to what it is that we in our hearts intrinsically know. And so it's important to tune into that channel and to make some informed decisions from that point of view.
Hmm.
And one of the things I shared with a workshop that I did not so long ago was around that very principle that sometimes we'll want to gather all our resources, make sure that we are fully prepared, we've got a full network of people ready, we've got all the time we need, etc. And actually, that's often not the place to start. We have to start where we are and use what we have and do what we can. And that's a thought that Arthur Ashe articulated.
Hmm.
And it's a quote that I particularly enjoy because it just says, well, if not now, then when? We have to make the
Yes.
start where we are.
Absolutely, yes. And there is a school of thought which is little by little one travels far. So it's
Mm,
yeah about taking the first step. So
exactly.
there's so much to ask you, and I need to just check with you because we're just focusing on transformation, change, shift. Perhaps people in a work situation in the
Yes.
daily grind of the 9 to 5 who think actually I'm feeling I want to do something different. So from your experience, is there any difference in the age bands of people who have this insight? For example, older people who realize, this is the time for me now, or does it tend to be younger people who want to make the moves into a different direction?
That's a really good question. I think the older set, and by that I guess I'm meaning people in their 30s, 40s above, are the ones who've been doing whatever they're doing for a little while, and they kind of know what that feels like. And they're the ones that I've encountered in terms of they've had this idea burning away in the back of their mind, and now's the time. I suppose for younger people, goodness knows there are plenty of challenges for younger people, but it's the case that it's all fresh, it's all new, and they're able to go forward, learn, change, grow, and they will come to a point at some point in the future when it's that crossroads moment. But for the older people, perhaps it's a little more pressing, and that's
Mm-hmm.
why they decide to embrace a coaching modality.
Right, I see. And perhaps also because of being older, probably more used to carrying out habitual patterns, it's probably a little bit more difficult to make the changes because it does involve doing different things than we've always known how to do. So I just want to touch on that perspective really, and working with you in this discussion today, thinking
Yes,
about you as a coach.
yes.
I'm interested to know then, when you work with that client group, what would you say are your unique qualities that you bring as a coach that can support those people in particular, of that particular age group?
Well, being their sort of contemporary helps, I think,
Right.
and
Yes.
also having gone through that process myself in the corporate world, in that big organizational structure for more than 21 years, you get used to, as you say, habituated to a certain ways of doing things, certain processes, line management, etc. To change, to embrace the change of stepping away from that and developing an alternate career, and to bring workshops into being, to offer lots of content on social media, to get involved in those networking conversations. That's about embracing change and recognizing all of the elements of apprehension and fear and going for it anyway. So I think those are the things that I bring to my side of the conversation, modeling that sort of process so that they can see it is possible and that they can buy into it if they're willing to do the work.
Sounds like a rich experience to actually work with you through that period of one's life, really. You know that I interviewed Clive Maxheath some weeks ago, or some months ago, in fact, now.
That's right, yes, indeed.
Yes, yes, who's also a Coachpreneur co-organizer, and we spoke about men going through transformation.
Yes.
So, as you've mentioned the word contemporary, I like the way you've put it across. I'm going to work with that, and I just want to read out something actually that's from your blog, a blog that
Yeah.
you wrote in September 2015 called "Are You Okay, Mate?" And the bit I've extracted reads like this. It says, here is a sobering statistic. This year, 75% of people in the UK taking their own life will be men. That is 3 men for every 1 woman. And you've got the subheading here, strong and silent. Generally, men in midlife say, yes, if you ask, are you okay? It is best to be strong and silent, man up, keep working, or get wasted or withdraw. Tears are best kept for football. That's a great crying shame. Those 40 somethings are the ones at greater risk. So, being a contemporary, as you've said, and helping people to go and shift through change, what is it do you feel that, let's talk about 40 plus men in particular,
Yes.
find, what are some of the factors that make them perhaps resist change, or do they?
Some men in that bracket, or some men generally, are open to the idea of change and they're able to be a little bit introspective, look at what's going on in their heart or follow their gut instinct and say, yes, I'm ready to do something different. But the resistance, I think, comes from all those associations which they're caught up in or involved in. They are somebody's partner, they're somebody's dad, they're somebody's mate, and it's very difficult for some fellas to tune into those inner voices that say, "I, I'm not really comfortable. I'm not coping, and I need to get some help." And I'd contrast that perhaps to women whose networks are much more open. This is a bit of a generalization, obviously, are
Hmm.
much more open to seeking out help and to have those conversations that say, not things aren't well with me and this is the dilemma. And then they can get some support. Guys can be a bit more stoic and a bit more to themselves. And so they will self medicate or they will find other ways of coping in inverted commas. But the coaching dimension, if it's valuable to them, just opens up the conversation. It allows them to say, I can think of one client in particular who's a chap who's says what he means what he says. And when we were in our coaching process, he was saying, I don't understand why I'm really drained all the time, why my energy's flat, why I'm forgetting to pick my other half up from the station because I'm working late. And it transpired that what he was caught up in was a workplace situation where he was being told, keep doing what you're doing, we love it, and it'll change in 6 months' time. Of course, 18 months later, it hadn't done. And that's where the gap was between the pain he was experiencing and the potential that he could display if he was just allowed to do what he was skilled and confident in doing.
And that's interesting because it sounds like a great dialogue where this client was able to open up to you. I'm not a man, so I don't know, but from my awareness and understanding, that is one of the challenges, isn't it? Opening up to someone to be able to approach someone to say, actually, I need some help here. Can I have some
Yeah.
dialogue with you about what I'm thinking?
Yeah.
So what are the challenges for you as a contemporary, a male black coach who is wanting to support people? Do you find that there are some challenges with people coming forward and being open and having dialogue in a coaching setting?
Yes, I think that is a fair thing to say, that the coaching process isn't one that everyone's familiar with. They might think it's like therapy. It isn't. It's quite different. And also that element of vulnerability that you really captured very well. It's something to sit down with someone else, a relative stranger, and to be completely open and to be very vulnerable. So as a coach, what I try to do in face-to-face interaction across the blog, etc., is to be open, is to put it out there and to talk about the effort that is required to pay attention to what's going on in your own life, to establish some boundaries around the focus that you want to apply, actually care deeply about how you show up, how present you are, how much attention you pay, and the service you're providing to your customers, your clients, your prospects, and your colleagues too, so that everybody who's in your life is able to get a little bit better from you because you are fully present in your own life and paying attention to the things that are important.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking back to my father who passed away last year, and I was thinking, about my parents coming from the Caribbean and starting a new life in the UK in Birmingham,
Yes.
and they weren't privy to self-development. They didn't
No.
have the support that we have. So the support that we have now is there, it's available, and
Yes.
it's just to get through that, break through that barrier, to recognize actually it's quite okay to check in with someone, to just have someone there with me on my part of the journey, because there isn't a rule book of life, is there? So just to have someone support us is very liberating, I would say. So
I think so. Yes.
yeah,
I think one of the things I was struck by, I saw Ledley King, who played for Tottenham and also for England, the footballer, and he was reopening our local YMCA just over the weekend. And he was talking about his own personal history, his own personal experience of being a young black man and so forth, and the strength that he drew from his peers and from his teamwork so that he was able to express his needs and have them met. And that's so very important. It's not something that everybody of a past generation was comfortable doing or aware of. But right now, in 2015 and beyond, that's at our fingertips and very much available.
right. Okay, great. Okay. I'm just going to take a pause now, Roger, because partly it will give our listeners some time to absorb this segment of the show. And
Yes.
I'm just going to have an interval and then we'll be back on the other side. And because I have you here as an older black man or an
Yes.
older man even,
Uh-huh.
I want to talk to you about something that I've always wondered about, and maybe we can explore that in this podcast setting. So,
Fantastic.
okay, we'll be back in a few seconds.
Okay.
Usually, we struggle through life alone, with outdated beliefs and self-sabotaging actions that bring the same results. How different would it be if you had a personal success coach who helped you make the shift and create a plan for happiness? You will fearlessly align your values, achieve important goals, and reframe your perspective when you have coaching with me. Email Rebecca at info@satellitelifecoaching.com. Book your free discovery session and change your life.
My name is Rebecca Gordon and I'm the CEO of Satellite Life Coaching and Training. As you may know, I also deliver podcasts. I speak to great guests, and I have one such great guest in the studio with me today, Roger Dennison, who is a Caribbean-born, living in the UK now, coach. And we are touching on, the conversation has shifted from Roger's experience into his unique style of coaching to older men and coaching, and looking at diversity and client groups within coaching. So Roger, this is the thing I've been thinking about. Okay,
Yes.
I don't have any brothers. My experience of knowing males have been through, my ex-husband and that relationship, and just people I've come into contact with generally.
Yes.
So without generalizing, I've heard it said that men compartmentalize their lives, and it might be fair to say that this is true, that men put their lives into boxes. So forth, they they might focus on DIY, or focus on sports, or focus on a partner, and they isolate these parts of their lives. So
Yes.
I'm just wondering if this is true, and does this also apply to emotions? And if it does, what might be the danger in that?
Goodness, that's
It's a bit loaded, isn't it?
there's one or two things in there.
Yes.
Let me compartmentalize. Yes, I think men have as many challenges as women do in society at the moment. So breadwinner role, partner role, being strong, being stoic, etc. And I think in my experience of working with male clients, or just networking with other guys who are doing great things to transform and change their lives and the lives of others, taking down those walls between 9 to 5, the rest of life, being a partner, being a sibling, etc., that really helps. Because we may be a particular job role 9 to 5, but 24/7 we are ourselves. And so it's really useful to tap into all those bits of insight and all those bits of wisdom which we've gathered along 3 decades, 4 decades more, and to make use of those. And that helps us show up more vividly, be more distinct, and I think offer a better degree of service. So to put it into concrete terms, the example I was giving of the chap who means what he says and says what he means, he had ultimately, it turned out, some issues around self-confidence and assertion. And so he was putting off a difficult conversation because he wasn't sure how it would go and how he would feel and whether he could manage his temper and so forth. And being able to go through the coaching process with him allowed him to be free to have that conversation and to benefit from it. Cards on the table, this is what's happening for me, and this is what I've decided to do as a consequence. Living in a compartmentalized way wouldn't make that possible.
And that's powerful, isn't it? Because if there is a distinct difference, it is that women talk about their feelings, wear our hearts on our sleeves, and by doing that very thing, it just opens up the floor to say for someone to be aware of what's really going on internally. So it's great that you're there to support someone to do that, a male to do that.
Absolutely.
So, yes. So what makes it so important? You've mentioned a man in a job role, doing what he does and being told that's okay. But what makes it so important for a man to balance his energies? And just before you answer that question, let me just say, from a female point of view, you can be in the corporate setting, And because you're in that setting as a woman, you may perhaps demonstrate or apply some male energy in order to drive yourself, in order to get your work done. But
Yes.
naturally, as a female, when you remove yourself from there, or even when you're in that setting, you do still apply your female energy. So that's where we can give an analogy of balance. But for,
Mm.
for, for a man who's in that corporate setting and, naturally has that male energy, what makes it so important for a man to be able to balance his energies?
I think it's very important for a man to balance those energies for himself, because that's helping to promote his confidence and avoid those pitfalls of mental health and difficult challenges that might come from bottling things up or just putting stuff in boxes. But also for the people around him, for his colleagues, he's a better team player or team leader, and for his clients or his customers, what we might call prospects even, they're getting the best of him too, because he's open, he's listening, he's empathic. Let me use the example of one of the best leaders I ever came across in a corporate career, who was a man. And the first thing he did when I joined his team was to sit me down over a coffee and just explain where he was coming from, what his family life was like, what he brought to the job of being a senior leader, and what he wanted from his team. And then he invited me to have that same reciprocal conversation with him. And I was just struck by, he's set aside 30 minutes for this. His time's quite precious,
Hmm.
and he's been very open. And so it
Mm,
invited me to do exactly the same. And it
that's
was just a
excellent.
wonderful welcoming in.
Hmm.
And even, several months later when he caught me at the photocopier and just said, "How's that thing going?" And I'd forgotten
All
I'd mentioned
right.
it, but
Okay.
he'd remembered it. It's
Yeah.
wonderful at
Yeah. That's brilliant. I mean, it sounds like the establishment of a great connection, and it's a heartfelt connection. You know,
precisely.
yes, where there's that alignment and harmonization rather than competition. So I think that's
Exactly.
a good example of the balance of the energies there.
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay. And I can imagine that he went on to become a great leader and manager for you, or a supporter of you in that way.
Yes, I found I did some of the very best work I ever did for him, because I was prepared to think about what he was looking for. And I remembered that initial conversation. And I really wanted to go the extra mile anyway, and give him the very best that I had to offer. So I just found it was a wonderful way of connecting on that heartfelt way, as he rightly said. And it just allowed me to shine.
Right. Okay. And just touching on that scenario, then, it might be a good time here to ask, what is the difference between management and leadership?
Excellent question. Management, as I understand it and as I've sought to practice it, is around processes, making sure the right thing happens at the right time with the right results and impact for others. Leadership, it's more about inspiring. The leader sets the tone for the team or the community. He acts in a way that models the sorts of behaviors, the empathy, we've mentioned that, the connectivity, the openness, the vulnerability. All of those qualities are what the leader's about, and they create the atmosphere in which people can shine, that they can manage risks, they can be aware of customers and stakeholders, they can innovate and be creative. And if, despite all of that, the wheels come off, the leader's there to sort of say, okay, this has happened. How are we going to correct it? And what have we learned from it?
Hmm.
So management, process, leadership, inspiration. That's the distinction I would draw.
Okay. I like that, the idea of inspirational leadership. That's
Mm,
very, really powerful. And so let's talk about that perspective then, in
yes.
terms of initiating change and managing change.
Yes.
What tips can you offer to our listeners for someone to be an inspirational leader for themselves first and foremost?
Inspirational leadership for the self, that's got to be around self-awareness and self-knowledge, being aware of the values from which you operate, because everyone's got a value system, how they show up and present themselves relates to their values, if they're empathic and warm and welcoming, that's drawing people into their community, into their network, into their lives. And that's a good place to start. And then making sure that it's authentic. I'm a big advocate for authenticity. If you can demonstrate consistently how you are, people will naturally warm to you and come to you. If it's a veneer that you're applying and it's not really very deep, once the pressure's on, you become a bit of a grouch, and your colleagues, your customers take their distance or step away from you even. And even in your personal life, people will sort of be a little bit edgy because they don't know where you're coming from. But if you can be consistent and true to yourself and your values, it just makes life a lot easier, I think.
And it's quite interesting that we perhaps don't realize how we are actually revealing ourselves, just by the very things that we do. And as you say, authenticity and integrity are very important, because people pick up on energies. And there is a saying, when people show you who they are, believe them. I think Oprah Winfrey said that. Yes, okay. So we're moving down towards the end of the interview now, and I know that you do workshops and speaking engagements. Tell me about the last speaking engagement that you had. What was that based on?
Yes, that was at the end of July, and that was 40 plus people in a room looking at establishing their social media presence. And that was a really good occasion because there were people at different parts of their particular story, folks who were just starting up, folks who already had their little side business going, and people who are more fully established. And they were wanting to understand how best to use different social media platforms to reach their particular community and to establish that dialogue, those sorts of conversations, and to really put value out there, to offer solutions to people's problems, to signpost them to other content that they shared because it was relevant to the community they were establishing, and to naturally involve them in that conversation about change and growth and grasping opportunities. And I really enjoyed that session. I think people, from the feedback that I got, folks did too. And I continued that dialogue over the course of the summer, just putting out some tidbits and some tools and tricks on
Right.
the website that people could tap into.
Okay. Because social media, it can be a minefield, can't it? And, it can seem quite overwhelming at times. You just don't know where to start. So to be in an audience where it's demystified, perhaps especially for the older client group, would be very helpful, I'm sure. And I think you had quite a large audience there, didn't you?
That's right. I was very pleased by the turnout. There were more than 40 people in the room, and as I say, younger people, older people, both men and women, all of whom though were very keen to understand how to use those social media channels without being overwhelmed. Because as you rightly said, there are hundreds of them out there, and you could spend all day, every day trying to pump stuff out and
Mhm.
self-promote. But actually, it's about, well, it's going back to authenticity, one of those words we mentioned in terms of goals. It's just being present. It's sharing information that's appropriate to the people in that conversation, and it's helping them make use of those bits of information in a way that spreads the word and that benefits their community, that ripple effect.
Mm. And with your workshops, what are the themes of your workshops? What are they about?
Sure, yes. So I've been fortunate that my local council has invited me to do a couple of them. So social media was the most recent one at the beginning of the year. It was about goal setting, taking action and achieving those results that shift you forward through your life as opposed to just trudging through it. It really gives you that energy and that inspiration. So yes, the themes are very much change, inspiration, growth, and those are the themes I'm very happy to explore in speaking to people. Again, it's underpinning the Coachpreneurs principle, that continuing professional and personal development.
Okay. So, Roger, what's next for you?
Wow. Well, next for me after the Coaches Lounge is what's next on the agenda. There we are. We're at the end of the month, so I've got to review what I've accomplished this month and share some ideas next month in my newsletter, which is something people can sign up to. And that's about, again, the themes we're talking about, change and growth and achieving those goals and dreams that have been long cherished but underexplored.
Okay, excellent. Sounds good. And Roger, I just finally want to ask you, please, to share your contact details. You are a transformational coach. You resonate very well with men, with older men, perhaps. You work in the corporate setting. So I'm sure someone, some people out there will want to follow you, find out more about you. So how can
Yes,
people be in contact?
sure. Two primary channels, and we've mentioned social media a moment ago.
Yes.
First and foremost, I'm active across Twitter at Roger D _ said, and that's one of the ways in which you can meet me and get into that conversation. And the other one is experience your life, all one word, .me, which is my website, www.experienceyourlife.me. And there's loads of free content on there, blog posts, etc. And if you dip into the members area, you can click the link and go to the behind the curtain, as it were, behind the velvet rope, and
Okay.
into that space where there's some content which I've created, which you can download. Just fill in your address and your email details, and you can get a PDF, which is talking about attention, boundaries, and care. That sort of ABC principle that I was touching on, which allows you to focus on the goals that's right in front of you and takes you that next step forward.
Excellent. So there's a resource there that people can access from Roger Dennison. Roger, it's been an absolute pleasure connecting with you again in the Coaching Lounge studio. I really do appreciate your time and the valuable input you've given today. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to join you in the Coaching Lounge and to offer your community some insights. I hope they'll be able to take from our conversation something useful and apply it, because it's the application that makes the difference after all.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Coaching Lounge. Take your place in the Coaching Lounge. Be inspired by discussions with motivational guests, compelling speakers, key people of influence, and models of success. Learn unique processes, strategies, and tips that will transform your life. Tune into previous episodes on www.thecoachinglounge.co.uk. Like our page on Facebook via The Coaching Lounge. Follow us on Twitter @Satellite Coach. Thank you for joining your host, Rebecca Gordon, in The Coaching Lounge. Tune in, relax, engage, and transform your life now.